Welcome to the Autofocus Q&A, where we invite leaders, top executives, and personalities from the automotive sector to answer questions about the automobile and its industry from our invited motoring journalists and those sent in to us by our viewers. This week from the Motoring Media, we have the motoring editor and art director of the Manila Times and contributing columnist of Top Gear magazine, Mr. Brian Afuang. Brian, welcome once again to the show. He is joined by the consumer editor of Top Gear Philippines and motoring columnist of The Inquirer, Mr. Bochi Santos. Bochi, welcome again.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And as for our esteemed guest this week on the Autofocus Q&A, we have the Vice President for Marketing Services of Mitsubishi Motors Philippines, Mr. Froy Dytianquin. Froy, welcome to Autofocus.
Hi Butch, Brian, Bochi, and thank you for this opportunity.
Our privilege, Froy. Now, getting this show on the road for our first question, Froy, tell us, a lot of people have been intrigued by the unprecedented success of the Mirage. Can you tell us something about it? I know for a fact there are two Mirage variants.
Yes, as you mentioned, Butch, and we have actually two models of the Mirage. We have the hatchback, which we launched much earlier. I believe that was 2012. And followed by the sedan version, which was only launched last year. And right now we are very satisfied, and we're even seeing that we're exceeding what our expectations in terms of sales and satisfaction level from the customers for these two vehicles. And yes, we are attaining our targets for these two models.
Tell us, Roy, when you decided to launch the Mirage here in the Philippines, didn't you find that particular segment a little overcrowded already?
Well, actually, yes, especially when we introduced the hatchback, and before, when we were looking at the passenger car category, in particular, hatchback sales are not really so significant. It was really I can say it's a gamble on our part to make a hype on this hatchback, and we were relying on the brand itself, because if you will recall, Mirage has some following in the 80s, and they know that the hatchback was that Mirage hatchback was really something to own at the time. The owners were very satisfied with the performance. So when Mitsubishi actually decided to introduce the hatchback in this market again, we were confident that it will give the much satisfaction to the customers. And at that point, we were also looking at the new generation market, no? Because we analyzed the passenger car category, and we were looking at there are a lot of new buyers, first car buyers coming from younger generation. So I guess the rest was history, and we were seeing a good number of Mirage to date, and of course our competitors are also following suit, no? The hatchback sales are growing actually.
Froy, since you mentioned the growth of the hatchback market, how has it grown significantly with the entry of not just the Mirage but the competitors?
Yes, actually, I believe the growth of the hatchback is very significant, considering, well, of course, we all know after Mirage, our competitors followed suit. Toyota launched their Wigo. Then, of course, there were some refreshed models from other brands. No? So the segment itself, because the hatchback is separated from two segments. One is the micro, and one is the subcompact. So we in general, the total hatchback sales probably have increased more than 50% from 2013 up to today.
Actually, I think your effort was pioneering. I remember in one of the press releases of Toyota, it was mentioned that one of the reasons why they came up with Wigo was because they noticed that particular segment, category, the sales of that particular segment was really going up.
Yeah. And of course, after Toyota, I believe some of the competitors like Honda is coming up with also the Honda Brio,
Next
and
one, if I'm not mistaken.
so it's a significant segment, as I mentioned earlier. The reason for this is there are a lot of new first-time car buyers, and we have also noticed that the age has become younger for first-time car buyers. Some of the customers we have observed are coming from even just college students, meaning their parents bought a car for them so they can have commute to go to their university or their schools.
What would you say is the appeal of the hatchback?
Well, one is it's easy to drive, and at the same time, I believe, again, coming from that young segment, they don't want a bulky car, something that's just right for them. And at the same time, of course, the hatchback cars right now are, in terms of styling, it's really attractive. So it appeals to this generation, and of course the pricing is one major consideration.
Right now, Mitsubishi is known for the Mirage. I mean, you think Mitsubishi now, you think Mirage, but before this, you guys had another success story, which was the Strada and then the Montero Sport. You know,
Yes.
those two models are getting along, but is there anything new we can expect from those cars? And then, you know, you sell a lot of other cars, obviously, not just the Mirage. What about your other vehicles in the lineup?
Okay.
Anything to expect?
Good thing you asked that. The Strada and Montero still continues to again sell good numbers, especially Montero. We've noticed that year to date we have some increase, maybe around 15 to 20% from the previous date. So there's still a demand for this vehicle, especially Montero. Again, you mentioned that before that we were known as a Montero company. The formula itself continues to be satisfactory to all users, meaning value for money. The price is very affordable, and you get already an SUV, and of course it's really suitable for this market, no? Considering the roads that we have. Now it's rainy season again, so we expect some flooding. So these vehicles are actually significant to this market.
Tell us, Froy, how tight is the industry now? Coming from you, Mitsubishi has been in the country for so long. As a matter of fact, there was a time when there were only 3 brands lording it over in the automotive market. But now it's so tight. There are so many brands coming in. You know, eventually there'll be 2 Indian companies, Chinese brands. How tight is it?
It's really very competitive, Butch, now, because not only in the Philippines, but I would say the ASEAN as a whole. Every manufacturers, car companies are looking at ASEAN as a growth market. And of course, this Philippines per se is being now a center of that growth, because considering, well, I guess looking at the population, it's not equally translated to how Thailand or Indonesia is growing. So they're looking at Philippines. In some point in time, it will expand rapidly, and that's why, as you mentioned, there are a lot of new players coming in, because they see that maybe 3 to 5 years from now, the market demand will explode, and there will be a big demand for vehicles.
Hopefully the bubble won't burst before the demand, demand comes in, you know.
Yeah.
Mitsubishi's on top for a long time. What's Mitsubishi doing right though?
Well, I guess one formula that we have is, of course, we've been here for more than 50 years, 51 years for this year, and I guess we've earned the trust of the consumers. We've established the dealerships, and the dealers themselves are very seasoned, meaning they've weathered all the crises during the history of the economy, or even the political crisis that we've witnessed a few decades back. So I guess that tells why Mitsubishi is very strong in this market. And at the same time, of course, we've improved our products, our vehicles, and most of them we're focusing now on the value proposition, which I believe some of our models, or most of our models, have we are now offering for this market.
Okay, we'll have more questions for our very good friend Froy Dytianquin, Vice President of Mitsubishi Motors, especially in their life-changing move from where they are to Santa Rosa. We'll take a very short break. When we come back, we continue with the week's Q&A. Stay with us.